Joe Reinagel, Jason Minix, The Blitz on 94.1 San Antonio's Sports Star.
It is The Blitz here on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. He's Joe Reinagel. I'm Jason Minix. Been a week since the NFL draft. Doesn't feel like it. Feels like it's so much longer, right?
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels like it was yesterday. It's the way the NFL likes it to work. Let's talk about what the Houston Texans did. They had an incredible draft. John McClain from GallerySports.com joining us now on the Buyers Barricades guest line. John, one, how did you keep up with all the Nick Caserio trades? And overall, it's been a week as things have settled in. All the press conferences are there. Your general overall reaction to what Nick got done last Thursday through the weekend?
Guys, there were a record number of trades, and there were 40-something made, and he made 20% of them. He made 8 trades. He went in with 12 picks. He ended up with 9 players, and he made 8 deals. And that's been his MO since he got here. And I think if you look at the last 2 drafts and you see what Caserio started with, no 1, no 2. They didn't have a 1 the year before. It Watson fiasco. And I have a column detailing all this on GallerySports.com I wrote for today about all the problems this team experienced. It's amazing because right now it looks like they've turned a corner. And I'm not talking about wins and losses. I'm talking about good decisions that the fans and the media like, starting with D'Amico Ryans. And then, and it was not just C.J. Stroud, which was the quarterback everybody wanted. And then that bold trade to trade up to get Will Anderson Jr., drafting University of Houston receiver Tank Dell, who's a big fan favorite, scored more touchdowns than any receiver in college football the last 2 years. They had a need at receiver. They drafted 2. They had a need at center. They drafted 2. And then the pick that I liked the most outside of the first 2 was the middle linebacker from Alabama, Henry To'oTo'o. And he was projected to go in the 3rd round. They got him in the 5th. It won't surprise me if he's starting as a rookie. So people here are pumped. We thought they got about 5 starters in free agency, and now the top 2 are going to start, of course. One of these centers should start. Tank Dell will probably be their slot receiver. So they're getting a lot of production out of the draft class. And I like some of their undrafted free agents as well. Now teams are signing veterans. They can get cheap. I think the Texans have signed 4 in the last 2 days. So this is the first time I've been fired up for rookie minicamp since 2017 when Deshaun Watson was here. But that wasn't like this because Texans were coming off a division title and a playoff victory in 2017, so they weren't pathetic like they have been now. And so people are so optimistic, not about going to the playoffs or anything, but just finally showing some significant improvement.
You know, John, you may have answered my question right there, but you think C.J. Stroud will be under center game 1?
He better be. If he's not, it's interesting. I did a talk show today in Indianapolis, and the media is talking up there about Anthony Richardson starting the first game, even though he only had 13 games in college. Will Levis won't start until Ryan Tannehill is injured, or they decide, knowing his Tannehill's last year, to go ahead and elevate Levis. I'm guessing over the last 10 games, we'll see all 3 AFC South quarterbacks be the starters. And Trevor Lawrence in his 3rd season will be the grizzled veteran. And I can't wait to watch that. It's going to be so exciting. One of the things that got me, the Texans, a lot of people said they overpaid to get Will Anderson Jr. Well, you don't have any clue if you overpaid because you don't know how he's going to play. You know, he could be he could be better than Mario Williams and Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney was supposed to go to the Hall of Fame, and he's never even had 10 sacks. But they got it. To get the 3rd overall pick and a fourth round pick this year. They gave up the 12th and the 33. And then next year they gave a first and a third. Well, they still have first, second, and third round picks next year. So people that have been critical of the trade have left that minor point out, which is not minor, of course, because it doesn't fit their agenda. They have 8 picks next year, 8 or 9, I can't remember, including picks in the first 3 rounds. So it's not like they pulled a Bill O'Brien and left themselves destitute until the 3rd or 4th round. And so people here, I can't over stress how excited everybody is, fans, media, because first time since 2019 that the light at the end of the tunnel isn't a train.
John McClain from at gallerysports.com joining us here on the Blitz. And I know there's been a lot of talk, obviously, with C.J. Stroud and Nick Caserio. His to the best of his ability, answered the questions of the smokescreen, but a lot of people were off of C.J. Stroud and were surprised that the Texans actually took him there. What are you hearing, not necessarily from all the press conferences, of when they decided C.J. was their guy?
After the combine and the pro day, they knew then that Bryce Young was going to go to Carolina, and they kept it so quiet. D'Amico Ryan said the only people that knew about it were him, Caserio, and the 2 owners, Cal and Anna McNair. And they were all sworn to secrecy. They didn't tell coaches, scouts, personnel people. And then when they drafted him, everybody was stunned. Everybody, and I said, I don't know how they could not draft a quarterback. And then yet I had them taking Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher who went to the Raiders, because the more they kept a lid on it, the more I thought something was up. And boy, I'll learn next year. Now, the night before, on the NFL Network, Daniel Jeremiah does an outstanding job. He had his last mock draft, and he had the Texans trading up with Arizona. And I thought, geez, he's just trying to pull something out of his you-know-what.
Mm-hmm.
And now, next time he has something on the Texans or the Cardinals, and I'm guessing it came from the Cardinals, he didn't know the terms. He just knew they were making a trade. And they had to get the terms ironed out, but they had the parameters of the trade ready to go. And I saw a video today, Chris Ballard, GM of the Colts, was devastated when he said the Cardinals have traded the pick, thought somebody was trading up to get Anthony Richardson. And when they announced the Texans, he celebrated because he knew they were going to take an edge rusher. Titans tried to get up there to take C.J. Stroud. They were unable to do it, so they had to go with Will Levis. But people here couldn't be happier. And Stroud, the Texans don't subscribe to that service in Nashville, a company that puts out that S2 cognition test. Only 15 teams do. And I felt bad for C.J. Stroud. He started crying when he was drafted. I'm sure the pressure had been on him like crazy. People questioning his intelligence, even though it's not an intelligence test. And so when he got picked second and he came in for his news conference the next day, he was funny. I didn't know he had that kind of sense of humor. He didn't show it at the combine. He didn't show it in the Zoom call we had with him and Anderson right afterward. But boy, he came in the next day, he and Anderson together, and they were funny. Turns out they'd been in Houston together shooting the commercial the previous week and talked about how great it would have been if both of them could have played here. But of course, that wasn't going to happen. And then it happened. And so they're 2 confident guys. Both of them are very religious. I mean, very religious. And they just got people so fired up after listening to them. And Stroud made everybody laugh multiple times.
John, when the Texans, and I'm sure you've seen this, they put out a video right after that, and it was just like the world had just begun, like Genesis all over again. And so I'm assuming that the buzz all around the city of Houston from Texan fans, it just got to be off the chart.
When I talked to you guys, I was at last week, right before the draft, I was at the press box at NRG Stadium because that's where the headquarters was. But they had Miller Outdoor Theater here. They had 7,000 fans there. I wasn't paying attention. I was actually doing a radio show, a national show with a Zoom, talking about C.J. Stroud. When all of a sudden they made that Anderson pick, and the guys I was doing it with, one of them, Brian Baldinger from the NFL Network, he just went crazy. I can't believe they got Will Anderson Jr. And the fans just went bonkers when they announced the Stroud pick. And then when they said the Texans were on the clock and they announced Anderson, people were like, it was mass hysteria with 7,000 fans. And it's not often when you can make decisions that gets the fans and the media behind it. And it's the first time I can remember much positive being done by the Texans. Well, it started with Jack Easterby being fired when the dark cloud was lifted because of all the damage he and Bill O'Brien had done. But that's where it started. And then it hasn't ended. As they pointed out, they're hoping these moves come to fruition and they have the kind of results they hope they do. But it was fun watching it, talking about it, writing about it, because it's been so much negativity for the last 3 years.
John McClain from GallerySports.com. And as you said, fired up for rookie minicamp. And again, it's bizarre. The what's the word? The excitement level of the Houston Texans fans, because, I didn't waver from CJ, although I was surprised when they actually took him. And then for them to pull off that trade, but their draft all the way through, they deserve to get the good grades that they are. Them and the Eagles, and hell, I don't know what they're doing up there, but I mean, I don't know. It's not brain science surgery to take guys from Georgia. I don't know why Philadelphia is the only one doing that. But when you look at the draft overall, Houston obviously had one of the best drafts. What was the one draft team that you looked at and said, I don't know what those guys were thinking?
Well, usually it's the ones that don't have their picks. Miami had only 4 picks. And I'll tell you what was stupid was the owner tampering with Tom Brady while he was still under contract, ultimately costing him a number 1 pick when they had Tua Tagovailoa about to become, the full-time starter. And I gave my worst grade, a D+ to the 49ers, who the players they took weren't all that impressive to me. The best grades I gave A+ is to the Eagles and the Seahawks. I gave an A to the Texans, and there was nobody's draft that I don't like. People say it's unfair for you to give a bad grade to a team that upgraded this roster with a trade. I said, I only go by this draft and the players who have brought in. Another player that the Texans got, Xavier Hutchinson, he is a wide receiver from Iowa State, and I watched him burn Baylor. He had 10 catches, 156 yards against the Longhorns, and then dropped the winning touchdown pass. That was devastating for Baylor fans. But the fact they got Hutchinson, he was there. They traded into the 6th round to get him. He didn't have a good workout, and he ran slow. But I saw a 3-minute highlight tape of him where he was running past people, making these acrobatic catches. So when you have needs, when your top needs a quarterback, an edge rusher, a wide receiver, and a center, and you draft a quarterback, edge rusher, center, and a wide receiver with your first 4 picks, and then you double up at center and wide receiver, I think that's a pretty good draft.
John McClain from GallerySports.com. You can read him there, and you should be following him on Twitter at McClain_on_NFL. John, always appreciate it, my friend.
Jason, Joe, thank you guys very much as always. I look forward to talking to you next week. Maybe, just maybe, we can talk about the Astros again because they've been so mediocre. The Texans are actually getting more attention for the first time in years.
Yeah,
thank you.
Fix their offense. As John McClain joins us on the Buyers Barricades guest line. Buyers Barricades provides traffic control, rental, and sales for San Antonio and beyond. They are online at buyersbarricades.com.